What's up, y'all? Talon here. Today I'm back with another series of rank battles featuring top teams in the Regulation F metagame. Today I have a team that was created by Nils Dunlop and piloted to a 14th place finish at the Liverpool Regional Championships, the largest European regional championships ever. Him and another player, actually Jonathan Marston, both had very similar teams and both finished 8-1 in the first day of competition. Jonathan fell just outside of the top 16 standings, but had the same final record as Nils. Their teams were very similar in that they had 5 of the same members except for the Entei. On Jonathan's team, it was actually a Gouging Fire. It was pretty similar to a team that I believe was played on stream in the previous regional Scarlet, but regardless, we are featuring Nils' team today, mainly because of the Entei set. Is just very, very cool. It is a Tera Fire Choice Scarf Eruption Entei. I haven't seen it used in this way by any player thus far in Regulation F or in this generation, really. So I was very excited to see that and featured on the channel for you guys today. I did recreate the team in-game with EVs that I just guessed based on the team's composition. I don't believe Nils shared any information on the team, and it wasn't featured on stream, so there wasn't any like HP stats or just damage calculations I could estimate from that. So it is kind of just an estimate from my side. But if you appreciate the time it took to do that, to recreate the EV spreads, train the Pokemon in-game, as well as share the Pokepaste with the EV spreads in the description below, as well as the rental code, please subscribe to the channel and also check out Nils on Twitter. And with all that being said, let's get into a breakdown of the team now. So starting off, this team does take advantage of the Ursaluna Blood Moon Farigiraf combination that was able to take second place at the Charlotte Regional Championships last weekend, but it's a very different team from that one. This one does commit a lot more to the Trick Room mode, where the other one had a Tailwind mode component. We also have a Torkoal with a very interesting set of Eject pack instead of the charcoal ones you usually see to support the Entei, and then a very odd Flutter Mane with Trick Room, Fairy Feather, only Fairy coverage as well. It's just an interesting team overall, so I'm excited to feature those. But going a little deeper into the team, the Ursaluna is pretty standard at this point, the Life Orb Terra Normal set, seeking to rid yourself of that water and grass weakness that can be kind of difficult to play against Ogerpon with, as well as just boosting the power of your Hyper Voice and Blood Moon to pretty absurd levels, and then Earth Power being able to hit anything that resists the normal type for super effective, namely the Steel and Rock types. Farigiraf is the perfect support for Ursaluna. You don't really want your Trick Room turns being wasted by Fake Out cycling, so Farigiraf's Armor Tail blocking priority is definitely very appreciated. And you also have the Trick Room to set up, give you the speed advantage, Helping Hand once that advantage is set, to boost your Hyper Voices with Terra Normal to potentially even be taking knockouts, or especially your Helping Hand, Terra Normal Blood Moons. Those are just really going crazy with the Helping Hand and even knocking out some resists. And then you have a Hyper Voice Throat Spray set. I think that's pretty interesting. It really shows that you don't have to commit to the Ursaluna necessarily. Like, you can spend a turn protecting Ursaluna if you feel it's under pressure, take advantage of potential double ups into that and get a Hyper Voice and Throat Spray, and then suddenly the Farigiraf is a worthy threat on its own. This also lets you be a bit more of a threat once the Ursaluna goes down, so I do think that's a pretty interesting choice. Protect here is pretty cool just because you're not able to just freely double up into the Farigiraf. You can go on the offensive with the partner, while Farigiraf protects if you feel a double up coming into your Trick Room setter, and then get some extra mileage off of that. Well, here is a set I don't think I've really seen before. We've seen a Jetpack Overheat Helping Hand, but we've never seen it with Eruption or Tera Fire. They usually take a bit more of a defensive slant. This one seems to be a good balance between offense and defense, but yeah, the main idea here is in Trick Room, you can just go for those Tera Fire Eruptions if you have the opportunity to. And out of Trick Room, you can actually go for a Helping Hand with Tera Fire Entei and just go for Eruption, do insane damage. I've actually EV'd the Entei. It is a mixed one, but you are still able to one-hit KO near max HP Flutter Mane with the Eruption. So yeah, that's a very cool combination that can catch opponents off guard. It's a good mix-up in a best of 3. If you feel like they're going to lean really hard against the Trick Room mode, you can just go Helping Hand Choice Scarf Eruption, which is very cool. Ogerpon Cornerstone is going to be your main follow me user, as well as a solid check against Urshifu. You're able to outspeed and go for a Power Whip against that, take a knockout. Ivy Cudgel is also just excellent coverage against the fire types, which could otherwise resist a lot of your fire type coverage, as well as your fairy coverage on Flutter Mane. So I think that's a good option, as well as just Sturdy plus Follow Me being a very excellent combination. You can pretty consistently, with the ability Armor Tail and Sturdy Follow Me on the field, go for Follow Me Trick Room with the Farigiraf Ogerpon and consistently get Trick Room up. There's not a lot of options in the metagame except for very, very strong spread moves that can actually stop you from doing that. The Flutter Mane set is very interesting. It's Fairy Feather instead of like a Booster Energy or a Choice Spec, so you can go for Trick Room while also having boosts into your offensive options. We're going over Booster Energy here because we have Sun on this team, so you want to be able to benefit from the Drought as well as your offensive item, and Fairy Feather lets you do that and get pretty close to Choice Specs damage. I think actually it's a bit stronger than Choice Specs on your Fairy moves if you have Photosynthesis and the Fairy Feather on the field. And you can just go for Tera Fairy, Moonblast, and Dazzling Gleams to set that up. But I've viewed this Flutter Mane to be pretty slow and pretty bulky, near max HP and max bulk to surprise some people and set up Trick Rooms when they don't think it's really in your, really that's what you're going to be going for. Like you lead Ogerpon plus Flutter Mane, sack the Ogerpon, go for Trick Room, or go on the offensive if they led very slow to counter your Trick Rooms. So I think that does offer a lot of interesting mix-ups on the team. Last up is the Entei. Once again, it is a Choice Scarf Tera Fire set. 3 Fire-type moves on the set, definitely taking full advantage of that. It is an adamant, well, I guess it's actually naughty, so it is plus attack boosting, so your Sacred Fires and Flare Blitz are doing nutty damage with Tera Fire and Sun, and sometimes even Helping Hand, really doing crazy damage even to resist and knocking out anything that isn't a resist with a fair amount of ease. Stomping Tantrum is to hit things like Armor Rouge, Heatran, which have Flash Fire and would otherwise be able to resist, and then Eruption is a strong late game cleaning option, or if you feel your opponent has just a bunch of frail Pokemon on the field, you can go for Helping Hand, Tera Fire, Eruption, and knock that out. And even pretty specially bulky Pokemon will be knocked out by that. Like I said earlier, the Entei is EV to just barely knock out a near max HP Flutter Mane with that Eruption once you have all the boosts on it, so that is a very interesting mix-up you can execute if you find yourself in that opportunity. So that's going to do it for the breakdown of the team. If you want to try the team for yourself on Pokemon Showdown, I have the Poke Paste with the EV spreads in the description below, as well as the rental code in the top right if you want to try it on the Battle Stadium ladder. Once again, follow Nils on Twitter. I have his Twitter account linked in the description below, and if you enjoy these videos, please subscribe to the channel. All that being said, let's get into the battles now. Okay, my opponent here has Iron Hands, King Gambit, Tornadus, Ogerpon, Landorus, and Gouging Fire. They could set up Sun for the Gouging Fire. It doesn't seem that likely. The rest of their team doesn't really benefit from it a lot. Rain Dance for the Ogerpon and the Landorus could be an option. Not totally sure, but I do like the presence of Torkoal here. Entei's very strong against most of their team, except for the Gouging Fire and the Ogerpon if it goes for a Tera, so I do have to be conscious of that. I feel like the Trick Room mode is probably, it's definitely what I'm leaning most towards here. I could see Flutter Mane being my lead though, like kind of surprising them. Maybe they set up Tailwind or something like that. That could be cool for me. And I think I will lean towards that direction. I don't want to set up Sun if I can avoid it. I think what I'll do is actually lead with Ogerpon plus Flutter Mane and go with Torkoal and Ursaluna in the back, I think. This is interesting. There's definitely a lot of directions I could have gone with this, but I feel like Flutter Mane's pretty consistent at getting Trick Room up, and it might bait them to go for a Tailwind instead of a... like if I lead Farigiraf plus Ogerpon, obviously if they lead Torn, they can easily just go for a Bleak Wind plus attack on their partner, take a knockout on the Ogerpon, and get at least some damage on Farigiraf. But if they lead the Flutter Mane, they might be a bit more tempted to go for a Tailwind, which they do lead the... yeah, the Torn, so I do feel kind of safe. I kind of want to protect here. Yeah, I'm very tempted to go for Protect. I could go Tera Dazzling Gleam, though. I don't know. I should probably just go for... I think Follow Me Protect is the safest play and what I should probably go for, so I think I will just go... how fast am I? I should really just get Trick Room up, I think. I think I will go Trick Room plus a Ivy Cudgel into the Torn. I think they're probably not going to go for a Taunt, I'd imagine, but they are going for a Tera on something. That could be Tera Poison. Yep, it is. So that'll be, it won't be super effective on my Flutter Mane, but it will still do a lot of damage. If they aren't Focus Sash Torn, I should outspeed and knock them out with the Bleak Wind, though. They're going for a Rain Dance, which is interesting. I guess they're going for the Bleak Wind, or like, not the Bleak Wind, the Sandsear Storm. But we knock out the Torn in one hit with the Ivy Cudgel. Very glad it didn't follow me there, and deny them from going for Rain Dance on our Torkoal. They do go for the Sandsear. It is 100% accurate, but I think that is fine. Definitely a worthy trade, and I'm glad it didn't go for like a Fairy move, because they would have resisted with the Tera Poison, lived, and I would have been unable to get a Trick Room up. So in comes the Ogerpon. I think I just want to do a little bit of damage to the Ogerpon. Yeah, they've already Tera'd, so I think I'm actually pretty primed for a Hyper Voice sweep. If I just get a bit of chip on the Ogerpon, I'll go for a Dazzling Gleam just to guarantee I get some damage off. But yeah, I think Follow Me Dazzle is pretty safe. I am... maybe I should go for a Protect on a Pokemon. It's probably in my best interest, but... Double Protect would be interesting from them, honestly. I'm going to go Follow Me Dazzling Gleam. They might just go for a Double Protect. They're maybe primed to take a double knockout here if they are a slower Landorus, but I'm not sure about that. They go for Ivy Cudgel into my Ogerpon, fair enough. If they do take a double knockout, I'll probably pull out the Calc just to guarantee, or just figure out my damage roll a bit more concretely. But we do get a Dazzling Gleam off first. With the Fairy Feather, that's doing pretty solid damage to both, and I do believe that's in range of an Eruption Hyper Voice in a turn, so this game does... See, the interesting thing about Trick Room teams, even though like I do have a very strong positional advantage right now, they are still very threatening if they can just get double protects off, so the game isn't quite over. So I gotta check out who they have in the back and just limit the chance that they can switch in a target safely to win the game. But we do knock off the Rain, which is very much appreciated. Yep, so Torn's Rain Dance finally wearing off. I think the only thing that could switch in safely here would be the Entei, or not the Entei, the Gouging Fire, which would be annoying, but I think I'm just going to go Eruption. I think that's not necessary, actually. I think I should go maybe Eruption, Tera Normal, Hyper Voice here. I don't think Tera Fire is going to come in handy for me in this game. But if I can rid myself of my grass weakness, that's ideal. But this is all kind of moot because they should be getting a protect off here with both of the Pokemon. I'm just trying to, I guess, cover a switch if they try to do it this turn, but most likely they would do it the next turn. Yep, there's the Spiky Shield on the Ogerpon. And the Eruption Act, no Protect on the Lando. I wonder if that was a Choice Specs Landorus or something. I feel like that would have knocked out my Ogerpon, most likely, or at least brought it to Sash, so I think it's a little weird they went for that play. They could be trying to bring in Ursaluna here, or not Ursaluna. Iron Hands, I guess, makes sense, like getting Fake Out pressure on the board. Gouging Fire, though. Yeah, that's kind of what I expected. Defensively, that's a good pivot, but Iron Hands could have given us trouble here, potentially. But yeah, it is speed boosting, not so worried about that. We will take a look at the Trick Room turns, and we have 2 more turns, which is good. I feel like Helping Hand... Like Eruption... If I was Torkoal, I'd be confident that knocks out the Ogerpon. At this point, I kind of don't think so. I do feel like Helping Hand... Hyper Voice is probably my best play here, and I think what I'm going to go for. They need a double protect on Ogerpon and also be able to knock out my Ursaluna here, which even with the Heat Crash would maybe be suspect, but yeah, we're going to get the Hyper Voice off. It's definitely going to knock out their Ogerpon, and it does very close to a knockout on the Gouging Fire, so that is good for us. If they go for Flare Blitz, they will knock themselves out. But it is just Howl, okay. So that kind of indicates they are the Heat Crash Howl set, so they can go for a Breaking Swipe, but that's not going to knock out my Ursaluna, so I am just free to go for Hyper Voice Eruption, and they just don't have the spread damage, even with Earthquake, I think, if they had that, to be able to win that battle. So I think that was a pretty well-executed game plan. We at least stuffed them from going for like a Bleak Wind turn 1 by leading the Flutter Mane. They kind of were, tried to hedge their bets and go Rain Dance with the Rain Dance Sandsear, just like get 100% damage off, but I think that ended up being a mistake. They the presence of the Ogerpon in the field plus the Flutter Mane does kind of complicate things for them, because Taunt would kind of be wasted from them, especially if I go for like a Dazzling Gleam. I am threatening the knockout on the Torn with the Ivy Cudgel. Ogerpon is just a very solid Pokemon to be getting those Follow Me. Like really just play the Follow Me mind games turn 1, because a lot of the counters to Trick Room are weak to Rock, so having the option to either Follow Me, Protect, or go for an Ivy Cudgel and take a knockout into a Pokemon right off the bat just gives you a huge advantage in Trick Room. Just because eliminating the one Pokemon makes your decision-making process so much easier, and it's one less Pokemon that can go for Protect. Whoa. Opposing Sun team from them, they have Urshifu, Indeedee male form, Venusaur, Whimsicott, Torkoal, and Ogerpon. Another Ogerpon lover over here. Unfortunately, I think Torkoal is pretty annoying for Ursaluna in Trick Room. But I think what is cool is Eruption seems pretty strong against their team, so I might actually lead that. Like I'm very tempted to lead that, truthfully. Go for an Eruption right off the bat. Maybe even go for a Trick Room. Yeah, that's tempting. But if I get Trick Room up, what am I doing with it? Not a whole lot. Like my Torkoal is probably going to lose to theirs because I don't have Earth Power. So maybe I should try and play this straight. I think Follow Me Ogerpon's strong with Eruption here. Flutter seems good. I guess Tera Water Farigiraf could be decent here with Throat Spray, and I might go for that. In fact, that does seem the strongest to me. I think I'm going to leave the Ursaluna on the bench and actually commit to a potentially Tera Water on the Farigiraf late game. If I can get a Throat Spray up and I'm resisting Eruptions, I'm going to do a lot with the Hyper Voice, and if I have Torkoal on the field, I can go for Eruption, Hyper Voice. I do think I'm going to take advantage of that and not go for the Ursaluna, even though it is a lot stronger right off the bat. It's a bit, I could have some issues. So they lead the Indeedee. That could be a Trick Room option, but I think I am happy with this. They have the, does this learn Expanding Force? Probably does, unfortunately. Regardless, I don't think they have a knockout into me, so I will just go Eruption, Ivy Cudgel, I think. Walk into that. And I could Tera Fire Eruption, but as I said, I don't want to commit to the Tera Fire, so I think, honestly, I might just try and knock out the Indeedee here with Ivy Cudgel Eruption. It seems unlikely that their Pokemon are Scarf here, and we do move first, get the Eruption off. Probably not a knockout on the Urshifu, yeah, but a ton of damage on both Pokemon. Moving first twice, and yeah, we knock out the Indeedee with the help of a crit. It's not very bulky Pokemon, so I don't think that mattered, but we will see what the targeting here is on the Urshifu. Okay, Wicked Blow on the Entei gets us very close to a knockout. I think I'd maybe prefer if it did, but we do still have the speed advantage here, and we can switch out the Entei anytime we want. Venusaur up next, okay. That's not really that threatening to me, truthfully. I think I'm going to use this opportunity to switch in the Farigiraf and Power Whip the Urshifu. I could go for a Tera Rock Ivy Cudgel, but that's kind of really trying to cover for the 15% miss in a way I'd prefer not to. I think it's in their best interest at this point to ignore the Entei or try and catch the switch. And if they do catch the switch, good for them. But I would just like to preserve my Entei at this point. Okay, we do hit the Power Whip, knocking out the Urshifu. I could have maybe Ivy Cudgeled. Seeing the Venusaur in the back does suggest a Torkoal, so maybe I could have knocked that out on switch, but they are going to Earth Power my Ogerpon. Neutral damage, not even close. With the Life Orb to a 2-hit KO, so that's pretty sad damage. Venusaur's really fallen off without G-Max. Okay, there it is. There's that Torkoal, like I mentioned. I expect a Leaf Storm could knock me out, but I don't think I'm so worried about that. I'm just going to go for the Hyper Voice and the Follow Me, I think. To avoid Sleep Powder on my Farigiraf, as well as... yeah, I think that's really the only threat. So they have to probably commit to a Sludge Bomb to knock me out, which I'm surprised they didn't go for last turn. I think Rock resists that, but at least they would have been stabbed and they have a 2-hit KO. Now they might not even get me with the Sludge Bomb. They might have to go for Leaf Storm. Tear Grass is interesting. Yeah, they might just not have Sludge Bomb here, which would be weird in a Flutter Mane meta, in my opinion, but that's okay. We're going to Follow Me away any risk from the Venusaur and be hitting first with a Hyper Voice here on the Torkoal. Yeah, they did have Sludge Bomb, though. It is a knockout. Maybe we're trying to lull me into a false sense of security or catch the Tera Rock. But yeah, the Venusaur is chipping itself down slowly. We're going to get the Hyper Voice off. And as soon as Sun wears down, we can actually... Yeah, that's a 2-hit KO on the Venusaur, very importantly. But now, yeah, they're going for Heat Wave. It's going to do a lot. Wow, that is almost certainly Specs. I don't think that matters. We can just go into Torkoal and Hyper Voice, I believe. Like, I believe I can just Hyper Voice. That will knock out the Torkoal if they don't knock me out this turn. So they have to target the Farigiraf with the Venusaur. And if they do that, I can go for an Eruption, knock out their Venusaur, and then clean up with the Entei. I think that's safe. But I potentially could have gone for a Tera Water last turn on the Farigiraf to prevent a crit. They go for Sleep Powder, but as I said, I think you do have to attack the Farigiraf this turn because of the Throat Spray Hyper Voice coming out, taking a double knockout. Yep, we do take that knockout, so it would have been a little close without the Throat Spray, I think, but yeah, that excellent item choice making the Farigiraf a threat on its own instead of just kind of being a very passive Helping Hand Trick Room Pokemon. So yeah, we were able to surprise them with the Eruption. I think they led trying to beat Trick Room pretty aggressively with a maybe Imprison in DD, but we led what we needed to threaten that out as well as deal with the Urshifu, and I'm pretty happy with how that game plan worked out for us. Just dealing with the Pokemon in the team that could stop Trick Room, and then kind of just like chipping away at their frail Pokemon even without setting it up, just through positional advantage after the weak early turns for them. Alright, so we're playing against 2-2-2 Dozo, right? They have the Dondozo Tatsu combo, the Chien-Pao Dragonite, and the Flutter Mane Chi-Yu combo. So I don't think that does exceptionally well again. Well, Chi-Yu is very good, actually. Icy Wind, Booster Flutter would be my main fear here, honestly. How do I deal with that? I think Chien-Pao Dragonite might not be their best course of action, but can they stop? Snarl would be very devastating, no doubt. Icy Wind Snarl, I wonder if that knocks out the Ogerpon, maybe not. I think I'm going to lead with Ogerpon Farigiraf. Well, Icy Wind Heat Wave could be annoying. I think I like this the most, but it's a little sketchy, truthfully. Flutter Mane could be a good option here, but I'm worried about Choice Specs Chi-Yu, honestly. And I want to threaten that a bit more with the Ogerpon on lead. If they aren't a Booster Energy Speed Flutter Mane, then I can go for an Ivy Cudgel. Or if they aren't an Icy Wind Flutter Mane period, then I can go Ivy Cudgel and just straight up knock out the Flutter Mane, which is what I'm aiming to do. And it is Chien-Pao Dondozo, which is interesting. I am free to double protect here. Unless they're like substitute Dondozo, that's not really an issue for me. And it potentially baits them to hit into a Spiky Shield. So no real reason to play this game risky, or play this turn risky. Yeah, I feel fine about this. This is definitely a decent spot for me. They are ending up switching out the Chien-Pao, so we are going to get rewarded for double Spiky Shielding unless they go substitute. And yeah, now they're in a tricky spot where I am threatening threatening damage with the Power Whip. I might honestly go for Ivy Cudgels. One, it risks I have a decent chance to crit through the boost and do similar damage to Power Whip anyways, but also I just don't want to miss and lose out on valuable damage. So we do Spiky Shield, we don't see a Tera from them. So getting pretty well rewarded for that. Now we can play the turn with no uncertainty, which is definitely very much appreciated. Rock Slide. Okay, that's quite interesting. That's very interesting. Huh. Would you be... Yeah, I'm not sure what to make of that. I think I'm just going to go Trick Room. I feel like they definitely outspeed me. I'm going to go Trick Room, Power Whip, and just try and get some good damage on them. They could go for a Protect. They're faster than me and going for Rock Slide. That's interesting. They crit the Farigiraf. That almost feels Choice Banded, but if they flinch me here, I am in big trouble. Yeah, that's a pretty bad crit. Yeah, that's almost certainly Choice Banded, huh? I think that's fine, because I can switch out into Ursaluna on that, but yeah, that's a very bad flinch and crit. Yeah. Really bad. That feels like choice banded damage. Even with the critical hit, I don't think it would have done that much, so that's just very devastating. What can I do about that, though? I don't think a lot, truthfully. I might have to dodge a hit, genuinely, to have a chance here. Rock Slide's doing a lot, but not that much. We might have to dodge. Should I switch here into Torkoal? Potentially, that's an option. But I think they will just be able to Choice Scarf Dragon Pulse me. I think I do just need to flinch, like dodge a Rock Slide here. Yeah, they're like max speed, outspeeding my Ogerpon and Choice Banded, which is definitely difficult to deal with. A tough combo. Should I Blood Moon or Hyper Voice, assuming I'm gonna try to... I think I'll just Blood Moon. The chances of the Rock Slide missing are so low. Yeah, and they do double connect, so... Pretty unfortunate turn 1 off of the Rock Slide flinch and the crit, and they crit the Farigiraf again, which at this point is just adding insult to injury, but... Oh my goodness, yeah. My injury is extremely insulted. Okay, yeah, I'm just switching in the Torkoal. I don't think anything matters at this point. It's not like I could even be Fisher. Well, I guess this was a misplay, honestly. I think I need them to miss the Rock Slide. I'll play it out just for the sake of it, but I should have switched in the other Mon there. I think I'll go Overheat just to guarantee I knock them out and then go for a Protect. But yeah, that was a mistake on my part. I feel like I'd already given up when in reality the game isn't totally over. It probably is now though, now that I've just sacked my Torkoal. But at least we will have the Sun, and we do get the dodge this turn, but we did need it a couple turns ago. So yeah, we're going to go for the Overheat. It's going to switch us out. I think at this point it doesn't really matter. Again, I needed... Now if I'd switched in the Ogerpon that turn and dodged there, we could have won. But not the case. Because there is a, like, if we dodge on the Ogerpon and then dodge a flinch, I guess we could win with... how much did Power Whip do? Power Whip did a little over 50%. I think Ivy Cudgel probably knocks them out at this point without having to risk the miss. So if I dodge this and a flinch, I could win. We're going to need them to miss, and they are missing one, and it is the Ogerpon. Okay, this is why you play a game out. Now, Ivy Cudgel should be a knockout if I've estimated my damage correctly. I did not. Very swell. Okay, so missed and then choked. My bad. Yeah, that's annoying. I got the miss I need, but I didn't capitalize right. I guess Chen Pao in the back probably beats all my back Pokemon, given I gave away the Torkoal's HP, but you could imagine like a spot where a Torkoal is able to clean up in some situations against... I mean, I imagine it's Flutter still. Like, Flutter Chen Pao should always just beat me regardless, but... Yeah. Definitely some mistakes there. Yeah, so I played the endgame very sloppily, and I potentially could have made it into a at least competitive game, but yeah, the Rock Slide flinch denying me Trick Room ended up just being very, very devastating and difficult to come back against without just absurd luck. But really cool set on the Dondozo, Choice Band Rock Slide. Definitely an unconventional Trick Room strategy, but one that proved to be pretty effective here. All right, my opponent has a pretty dedicated physical offense Tailwind team with the Flutter Mane, of course, to complement that. I think this is kind of a team that Farigiraf has a pretty solid field day against with the Ursaluna. Like, I really am just threatening insane damage to the whole team with no resist to Hyper Voice, so I am going to go with that. I'm considering the Torkoal, which is very strong against everything, but kind of the... it's strong against the Urshifu, but I guess they can just rain dance that away. I'm not sure. I don't want to weaken myself to priority on the Ursaluna, so I am going to go for the Farigiraf mode instead of the Flutter Mane Trick Room mode. The question is, what do I want in the back? So I foresee Ogerpon going down pretty quick. Dealing with the Ursaluna, I think, is going to be a struggle for them. But if they do, it will most likely be with the Rillaboom or the Chen Pao. both of which are weak to Torkoal, but also weak to Entei. I think I like the Torkoal a bit more here. But Entei is definitely strong once Trick Room goes down, which I can kind of push the game to. Yeah, I think I'm going to go Entei here instead of the Torkoal. I think I'll have the turns with the Ursaluna. Like, I can stall the game sufficiently that I can get the Entei out. Without Sun, it's not going to be hitting that hard with Eruption, but I imagine if I can just get chip with the Hyper Voice on everything, I should be in range to either go for a Sacred Sword or an Eruption lock, or a Sacred Fire or Eruption lock. But we are going to see the Torn plus the Urshifu. That is a good lead from them, for sure. I think it kind of forces me to go for a... I could go Power Whip. I think I will go Power Whip. I don't think they have a knockout this turn. I could go Tera Water, Power Whip, but I think... Choice Scarf, Tera Water, Surging Strike. Probably knockout. I feel like getting up Trick Room is just way valuable here. So I should just go for Follow Me. It just depends on if they're Choice Scarf or not. On a team like this, I'd imagine they are, so I'm going to go Follow Me. Trick Room, but there's definitely ways I can get way ahead this game instead of playing it safe by just going Power Whip. If they are not a Choice Scarf set, I just knock them out straight away. If they go Rain Dance, Surging Strike, but if they do have a knockout on the Farigiraf, I don't really want to take that risk. So we are going Follow Me, guaranteeing Trick Room here. It was Rain Dance, no way to guarantee whether the Urshifu is Choice Scarf or not just yet. But I think we are priming ourselves pretty nicely for a Hyper Voice combo. That damage is impressive. I don't know enough about my EV spread to identify whether that's Mystic Water or not. But they do have so many boosts compounded, that's hard to say. I would have loved to see a Life Orb tick that turn, but not the case. Regardless, yeah, we're in kind of precarious territory. I think unless they're Assault Vest, we should have a knockout here. My main fear would actually be Focus Sash being on the field for some reason, so I think I will just go Hyper Voice, Tera, Hyper Voice. And I'm pretty sure that knocks out the Urshifu, the combination, and primes me for a more solid late game. Protect Torn would be kind of annoying here, because I won't get my Throat Spray if I knock out the Ursh in one hit, but I am just trying to cover mainly for a Focus Sash Urshifu, which isn't that common these days, and they have a Chien-Pao on the team, so it's really kind of niche of an option, but they don't protect either. Unless this is Assault Vest, I think we should be taking a double knockout this turn on the Ursh. Alright, was that... No, that's just a well-EV'd Urshifu. Well done. But yeah, we do double up with the Hyper Voice and take 2 knockouts this turn by just screaming into my opponent's face. Yep, and we are going to get the boost here. So this is the value of this sort of composition against Tailwind. You can almost guarantee the Trick Room with the Follow Me Trick Room setup. There's no priority they can go for because of the Armor Tail. And if they lead Frail Pokemon to try and threaten your Trick Room Pokemon and they don't have Protect at all, you can just get these crazy double knockouts. And it is Chien-Pao plus the Entei. Okay. Yeah, I don't think that's what they wanted. They did go for a Tera, so I can go for a Hyper Voice Earth Power here and knock out the Entei. Is there a reason to go for that? Probably no. I think I can just go for Hyper Voice, Hyper Voice. The Entei isn't really a threat because of the rain on the field. Like, if it is Assault Vest Entei, I do just have a knockout. With the... Yeah, they do forfeit. I do have a knockout into that, but there's no real reason to risk that. It could be Choice Band on a team like this. Hyper Voice might knock out in that case, and if it is Assault Vest and they do live the combination, I can knock it out next turn. Worst they could have gone for is a Snarl, and Chien-Pao is not bulky enough to weather the storm to close the battle out against me. So pretty clean game. That is definitely just how the team can be really successful against Tailwind teams. It is just deciding on the last Pokemon that's a little bit nebulous. I think depending on their team and depending on how quickly you expect your Trick Room Pokemon to go down. If you expect Farigiraf to go down and Ursaluna before Trick Room is kind of on its last few turns, then you would probably want the Torkoal and not the Entei or the Flutter Mane, but there are definitely situations where the battle can progress a bit faster and you need the Torkoal in next to the Ursaluna a bit quicker than you would be expecting in most matchups. And my opponent actually has a similar team in that they have the same 3-mon core of Ogerpon, Farigiraf, and Ursaluna. So the interesting thing here is if either of us set up the Trick Room, we can just go for the Ursaluna mode and not like, so it's kind of a weird spot where one of us could set up Trick Room, but if the other just brought Ursaluna but not the Trick Room, the person who didn't bring Trick Room kind of gets more Pokemon options to take advantage of. They also have Flutter Mane. Interesting. Okay. I think I like my Flutter Mane a lot here, like a ton. I think it's very, very strong. They might feel the same. I think Entei is a decent lead, just going for Eruption plus Dazzling Gleam turn 1 and dealing a ton of damage to everything. Torkoal could be cool, but is potentially pretty weak if they don't bring the Trick Room mode. Ogerpon, decent, but not that great against a lot of their team. But probably necessary for follow me pressure. And then I could reverse, get some pretty cute reversals with my own Ursaluna. If I set up Trick Room with Flutter Mane, which is maybe what I want to aim for. I don't think Torkoal does very well against Raging Bolt, Urshifu, or Flutter Mane. So I think I will just go with the Ursaluna instead. I don't think Farigiraf is going to be too valuable, not a lot of priority except for Sucker Punch on their team. So yeah, locking in those 4. Okay, we're going to see. They have led with the Farigiraf and the Ogerpon, so that's fine for sure. I feel pretty safe switching out, like going for Dazzling Gleam, switching to my own Ogerpon, truthfully, or switching into my Ursaluna. I don't think it's going to be a Power Whip this turn, but I guess I could Eruption. Terra Water Eruption would be cute. Don't think that's necessary. I think I'm just going to protect Erupt, honestly. That feels pretty strong to me. Like if I get knocked out here, fair enough. They're helping handing with their Farigiraf onto Ogerpon, so maybe trying to net a knockout into my Flutter, which would make sense, but we are going to protect here, play defensively. The Ivy Cudgel my Entei, they're definitely just making a good coverage play, guaranteeing the knockout, but we don't take a knockout onto the... Okay, yeah, they just knock out my Entei, so expecting me to be bulky and really, really prioritizing that knockout, which is smart, but not entirely what I expected. At this point, though, I should just have a knockout with a Tera Fairy Moonblast plus Ivy Cudgel, I have to guess. Yeah, I really doubt they can live that combo. Should I set up Trick Room, though? That's the question. Trick Room would be an interesting option here. Just depends on who they have in the back. I feel like it's reasonable, but maybe a bit more favored for me to just go Moonblast Ivy Cudgel here. I'm going to Tera Fairy Moonblast plus Ivy Cudgel. It doesn't look like they're tearing their Ogerpon, so we should just work this out with Ivy Cudgel knocking out their Ogerpon, I think. It's going to be close. Maybe I should have gone for Power Whip that turn just to cover. And then Moonblast should knock out their Farigiraf. They're going to follow me. I think Ivy Cudgel's a knockout, but I'm not certain. It depends on how defensive they are. Okay, that does knock out. Not assisted by a crit. I think that was probably a pretty close roll, and I maybe should have gone for Power Whip. But Moonblast, I do expect, has a good chance to knock out with the Fairy Feather, but it's going to be close. We do take the knockout, okay. So in exchange for the Entei, we get enough damage off of the Eruption to take a double knockout in the second turn, and their Follow Me Trick Room attempt fails. So I think that is suggestive of it being Ursaluna in the back. It is Raging Bolt plus... Yeah, Ursaluna, that's very good for me. I think I can kind of go for Dazzling Gleam. Thunderclap's not really so big of a threat against me. And they haven't gone for Tera yet, which is probably not a big deal. I think I might just be able to go for a Dazzling Gleam. I kind of just want to double protect, actually. They have to be Calm Mind to be any sort of threat to me. If they are, yeah, I'm just going to double protect here. They have to be set up on either of their Pokemon here, and it gives me the opportunity to burn a Tera, which opens up, like, limits their defensive options a bit. Yep, Tera Electric, so they would not have been weak to a Ivy Cudgel. Or they wouldn't have been weak to a Dazzling Gleam. So that kind of makes me more likely to just Moonblast the Ursaluna instead of what I was maybe going to go for before with the Dazzling Gleam, because the value on hitting the Raging Bolt when I can always just hit it with Earth Power is pretty good. Yeah, they protect with the Ursaluna, fair enough. And now I should be pretty safe. Oh, Snarl, so that is almost certainly an Assault Vet set. Okay, what do we do with that information? I think Moonblast should just knock you out, and Ivy Cudgel should, well, actually, is it a KO? Probably no. I don't think I think I need the Ivy Cudgel on this slot if I don't knock out Ursaluna this turn, but I don't want to risk the game on Power Whip necessarily, while also doubling into it. So I think I'm going to Ivy Cudgel into you. I think they have to go for a double protect in most situations, but yeah, the Ivy Cudgel is doing a ton of damage, and the Moonblast should get it in, should be a knockout. Oh, it does live, okay. But that's probably a Life Orb set. They're going to Snarl, breaking my Sturdy, but they have to Earth Power to knock me out. That's going to activate Life Orb. Yeah, they don't even knock out, so yeah, Life Orb chips, and they are unable to knock out the Ogerpon, meaning I should be able to just go for a Dazzling Gleam Ivy Cudgel, and unless they are running Vacuum Wave plus Thunderclap this turn to knock out both the Flutter Mane and the Ursa on the same turn, I guess they could have crit the Thunderclap and that would have been a problem. But I really wasn't super concerned. I think I could pretty safely just lock this up, but maybe a bit safer of a play would have been follow me Dazzling Gleam, but I'm a little worried they had like maybe Electro Web or something kooky like that to net a knockout on both of my Pokemon that turn. So yep, able to win the mirror there just with the Entei allowing me the damage I needed, and they might have been a slower Ogerpon and mine was able to just outspeed, and or maybe they were expecting to live the Ivy Cudgel or some manner of things that made them not go for Ivy Cudgel and went for follow me instead. But the option to just like get the initial chip damage, they don't get Trick Room up in exchange for my Entei, and then just letting me go for the knockout the next turn really put them on the back foot, especially because they opted in for the slower of their two modes. So that's going to do it for our battles today, featuring the Trick Room team piloted by Nils Dunlop to 14th place at the Liverpool Regional Championships. I do really like the cleanup option of the Entei as well as the support of the Ogerpon. I felt like there was a lot of games where I wasn't necessarily playing it well, but I did like identify in team preview that Ogerpon with the Ivy Cudgel and the Entei with the Eruption or Sacred Fires could just really lock up endgames that were just something that other Trick Room teams with their fast modes or slow modes aren't able to do so well. So I think it wasn't a surprise Nils was able to pilot this team to 14th place. Definitely has a lot of strong elements on the Trick Room team that are pretty conventional in the Farigiraf and the Ursaluna, and then the unconventional aspects of the Torkoal, Ogerpon, Entei, and Flutter Mane did meld together very well and allow for a pretty cohesive 6 that lets you play a bit more diverse win conditions and diverse paths of play than most Trick Room teams typically do. Once again, congrats to him. I have his Twitter linked in the description below, along with the rental code in the Pokepaste if you want to try the team for yourself. If you appreciate the videos, please give the video a like, comment what other teams you want to see me feature on the channel, and give the channel a subscription. And with all that being said, peace y'all.